And we are recording on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 at 10:51 a.m. Eastern Time with Mr. Halsey English. And this was election day, right? November 4th?
Yep.
Five 5 years ago. Yeah, yeah, that day. That was the nail in the coffin for my podcast. Was if COVID wasn't enough, it was interviewing guys talking about how it was stolen. And yeah, when I did an episode the day after, no, the day of, like the
hmm
night they stole it, I guess the next morning with some Delta Force guys, and then I titled the episode November 4 Civil War because it rhymed. Well, that's when I learned that threat is defined as capability times intent. Now,
hmm
at the time I was a 30-year-old podcaster with a biology degree. I don't have doesn't matter what my intent is. What the FBI told me was that I'm friends with Delta Force operators, and I'm not a fan of the feds, but I'm reasonable. That's fair. So, other than that, but so Mr. English and I guys go into the description. You can find all of his links in there. We did a show yesterday with my buddy Joe Altman. We did a show on Sunday with Tom Luongo, and I kind of realized that with both those shows, I was present with you, but I've kind of never we haven't really talked, and I was just like, I need to have this guy on. Like I've had him on, but I haven't. So
hmm
that's kind of what I want to do today is just shoot the shit and you know we can see what's out there. And but yeah, for everybody listening, could you tell them who you are? And all of your links are in the description. You can plug them if you want, but tell everybody who you are.
Sure. I'm a geopolitical analyst. I analyze politics both here and my specialty is in the Middle East. I focus a lot on economics and the way that economics relate to political action. I analyze situations from a military point of view, although I've not been in the military myself. I've been around the military and studying the military for a very long time. I analyze war situations and geopolitical machinations throughout the Middle East and America with a slight focus on Europe. So you can find me on Twitter most likely at Real Halsey E, or you can find me on YouTube at Halsey English.
Um, kind of two thoughts percolate in my head, and if you, the last two shows we've done are structured, you're now getting experience of what my show is just unstructured.
Sure.
I did a show last before the Trump assassination attempt, and I was just shooting the show
hmm
with my buddy Clay, former Green Beret guy, and I was talking about, or maybe it was after the Trump assassination attempt. It was like, okay, they went that far and it didn't work, and my first thought was, I'm happy it didn't happen, obviously, but my first thought was, if I were a psychopath, and I really did, and the analogy I used is like play video games, play Halo. You don't care if you're red team or blue team. Think about how little that means to you. You just want to win. You
hmm
might restrain yourself a little bit if like your best friend's on the other team, or you might go out of your way to kill them. But if it was just a game, how would you do that? And I can't view the world that way. I'm born in the United States. I love my family, blah, blah, blah. But if you're a psychopath who and those are the people that traditionally rise through power structures, if this was a game, what would you do? And my first thought was, okay, you wanted him dead, and that was goal one. If it didn't work, my next move would be go hard right. Take off the
hmm
climate change leftist mask, put on the right wing, MAGA, Christianity, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that truly believe that. But if I were a psychopath and I was looking at things in terms of, 10-year plans, 100-year plans, I
hmm
would say go all in, lean in, red, white, and blue, America's back, and get a bunch of dudes who have been disillusioned to get back to what it all comes down to, willing to enlist. And that's what I would
hmm
do. And after the show yesterday, Joe and I kept going for like 10, 20 minutes. And, we watched this video where Pete Hegseth is saying Our Father. And it's over, a montage of, American aircraft carriers and whatnot. And I hope it's for the right reasons. I hope it's and not just because I'm a Christian, but God as a placeholder, just good people that, want good. Looking at it, man, that's what I would do if I was in charge and I wanted to, whatever the agenda is, to keep the war machine going, to keep the global hegemony going, to keep I don't know, the world order from 1945 till now continuing. That's what I
hmm
would do. That's they tried to stole the election. They did the COVID, the Russiagate. They tried to kill him, jailed him, raided his home. None of that worked.
hmm
A real gamer would go, all right, clean the whiteboard. What are we doing?
Right.
I put on that crucifix, slap that American flag on, which is ironically what I'm doing right now, and I would move that way. Just your thoughts on any of that?
So with Trump, a lot of times I say the first administration was indicative of the second administration. Trump is a guy who does what works, right? And what worked for him in the first term, because he was stopped from doing anything domestically by Congress and by the kind of traitors that were around him. He focused on foreign policy because he could. He could get wins in foreign policy, and the Congress couldn't really do much to stop him. The executive branch has pretty much unlimited leeway on foreign policy. So when he came into office the second time, he did the same thing, right? Because he knows he's got to figure out who he can trust. He's got to figure out who's loyal. He has to figure out what he's doing. And he went hardcore foreign policy again. But he's doing it in a way that's making America open for business, which I think is a pretty big deal, right? There was a time where Germany said that they were going to stop selling certain parts to Israel, right?
Yeah.
And what their main tank manufacturer basically said, okay, if you tell us we can't sell tanks to Israel, we'll just move to America, right? And businesses all over the world are doing that now. So Trump can make a company move to America one of two ways. He can either say, I'm moving them to America and I'm going to encourage them to move to America, or create situations in which coming to America is a no-brainer. And he's doing that over and over and over again. Now he's got to walk a fine line with this, okay? Because, and this is the dirty secret that nobody wants to tell, we don't have the bodies, okay? We don't have enough people for the jobs to come back to America in one fell swoop. I know we like to think we do, but even before all the illegal immigration of Biden, there were 1 million openings for skilled laborer jobs in America. Those are jobs at factories, those are jobs in construction and welding and plumbing and things like that. There's no one to fill them. Okay. We don't have that level of population anymore. And our unemployment rate is at 4%, which is basically full employment. The 4% that aren't working are people that basically can't work. Okay. So the trucking industry needs 750,000 truckers, and they have for 20 years, right? That's why you got guys that are willing to work 80, 90 hours a week to in the trucking industry. They make a fortune, but it's tough work. You know, my father was a trucker. So what Trump is doing is he's bringing back business to America in the methodical way that it has to be done, so they don't come here, open up, and not be able to hire the people they need to hire to either destroy a currently existing business by taking all their employees or by not being able to hire enough to run it efficiently in the first place. So, and Trump is he's a genius on certain things. He's a complete moron on certain things. That's exactly what I love about him. But he knows the idea of a trial balloon, right? He knows
Yeah.
how to tell someone to bring something up and then gauge where the country is on it. So you saw that with Vivek and Elon when they brought up the idea of more H-1B visas, right? Immediate pushback. Everyone went nuts. The base went crazy. Like, we do
They did
not
it
want
on
more Indians taking
they
tech
did it
tech
on
jobs.
Christmas. What in God's name was that?
Hmm. It was the ultimate trial balloon, right? And you know what I was shocked about? Because I don't really like care one way or the other in terms of Indians. Like I have my issues with Indians, but I wasn't prepared for the absolute avalanche of anti-Indian, no, you are not bringing more Indians here attitude in America. You know, I figured nobody really cared all that much. I figured they'd care about the idea of importing people in general, but I didn't realize the vitriol that was really here for India and Indians. And I listen, I share a lot of those concerns. Okay. Like if you look at India, it's not exactly the kind of society that we do want to import here. And there's a big difference between the Indians that have come here. They're actually like the highest paid Americans by ethnicity in the country. Like they make more money than anyone. They make more money than Jews. They make more money than Asians, right? But those are in the higher caste of Indians. Those are the people that were already at high society in India, right? The H-1Bs are more the middle caste, and that's they're not as civilized. They're not as refined as the higher caste ones. And so when you see the H-1B visas coming in, you think of the people that own convenience stores where every sign is written with a magic marker as opposed to like looking nice. and they stink, and the guy's behind the counter reading a porn magazine as you're buying your cigarettes. Those are the kind of people that are looking for the kind of visas that Vivek and Elon were talking about, and he got significant pushback for it. But Trump's able to keep his hands clean, so when he comes out and says, "Yeah, I don't think we're going to be increasing H-1B visas that much," it was kind of like, well, Elon and Vivek wanted that, but Trump's not buying it. So Trump increased his popularity, but at the same time was able to see where the country was at on these things. Trump is really good at this. And so he keeps doing it. He brings up ideas and he says, I'm thinking about this. And he has one of his people go out and talk about it. Hegseth's a great one. Hegseth's been floating military trial balloons over and over and over again. And whenever it seems to hit, Trump does what he says. I think that that's a very efficient way to run the government, to run the executive branch, especially when Congress is completely dysfunctional. And Trump is really like kind of wowing me this term. So I'm giving him a lot of credit.
One thing I was thinking of yeah, I was gonna say, the pushback on the Indians was kind of crazy. Like I'm a right wing dude. I was not expecting that. And I thought it was disingenuous how, Elon was talking about the rush for, and I don't have Elon derangement syndrome. I think he's a massive asset for humanity. I thought it was a little disingenuous when he was talking about the importance of, the whole idea of the AI rush, exponential curve being a month ahead could be the difference between, I get all that. I was reading Ray Kurzweil in high school. I thought it was disingenuous when he was saying we should be using everything we have because I didn't realize it. I learned it that day. There is something different than H-1B visa, and it's for the top, I think it's like called point oh 0.01 or it's called like
Yeah.
O dash. It is for that. And that's not, I
Hmm.
thought, so just as an aside, I thought that was kind of disingenuous. I had this thought the other day, maybe like last week or something, um, that so like what Trump's doing is right, he's making very bold moves, right? And it's I get it,
Hmm.
second term in his 80s, billion, he's already done everything. Okay. And even though they have I guess a mandate of sorts, I was thinking like some of this stuff though is like I don't think he could do this first term. Even just the number of
Hmm.
deportations. I would say I was an average conservative guy in 2016 versus where I am now. I'm like, I don't care. Suicidal empathy is you can't do that. I had
Hmm.
this thought that what if like one of the reasons or possibly a co-reason why Elon's removed a ton of bots and trying to get an accurate algorithm of what really is the pulse. I wonder if that's like a real time way to do almost like a straw poll, but you do it through something like, the Department of Homeland Security's tweets about, Halo and Middle Earth. That's a way that you could almost do like a nationwide straw poll in a matter of
Hmm.
hours by just let's say you just really did, and I have no idea if it's true. What if you really did remove all the bots and it was just accurate? That's a way where
Hmm.
Elon could show it to Trump and be like, this one's getting traction. You can go ahead and do this. People want the National Guard in Atlanta versus like this one's getting. So in terms of trial balloons, that's just a thought I had that,
Well, you can also look at it from the exact opposite, right? They say the Twitter algorithm the Twitter platform in general is 87% bots, right?
yeah.
So if you float a trial balloon of, let's say, I want to deport Pakistanis, and all of a sudden it gets flooded by bots, and you could tell that those bots are coming from Pakistan, now you know that you were over the target, right? Because it may look like you're getting destroyed on Twitter, but Trump's not even on Twitter. He doesn't care, right? But you can tell, like, okay, I pissed off the Pakistanis with that one. It might be something I want to pursue. Also, in 2016, Trump didn't have the world behind him. Okay, when I say the world, I don't mean old Europe. I mean that you have Bukele in El Salvador, you have Milei in Argentina. They're trying pro-market, pro-natalist policies that are working. And a lot of the things that Republicans always considered to be theoretical are being proven to be true, right? When Bukele threw all the gangsters in jail in El Salvador, El Salvadorians wanted to go back. They saw an opportunity that they could move back to their country, which was like the biggest shithole in Central South America and is now one of the safest places in Central South America. They saw an opportunity of now I can go back and make a life for myself and not have to give all my money to MS-13 and, fear for my kids' safety. Same thing with Milei in Argentina. That's why he did that whole beef thing, right? Is that the success that Milei is having is so overwhelming with the policies that are very similar to things that Trump does, right? That he says like, okay, I have to prop him up a little bit because we have to keep this going. Like we want to show that it's not that we want to deport everybody who's brown, right? Even though that's perfectly reasonable to say. If it's something, if you're a pro-America, it's very reasonable to say I don't want South Americans here or Mexicans or Africans or whatever it is. It's not a race thing. It's a foreigner thing.
You're allowed
But
to
at the
love your
same time,
homeland, and you're allowed to love your homeland, and you're allowed to advocate for your people. There's nothing wrong with that.
exactly. And in 2016, that wasn't necessarily the case because everything was theoretical. But now that we've gotten some solid data on people immigrating here, like we've seen the explosion in the housing market from all the illegals, we've seen the vote tampering that's gone on in blue states. We've seen that there's prison guards and cops that are illegal aliens in California and New York. You see the rise of people like Zohran Mamdani in New York City and stuff like that. And we can legitimately say, okay, this mass immigration thing has been a colossal failure, and it's hurt the majority of the kids that we need to take over the reins of the next generation. So now when we implement those policies, when Trump does these things, he's not getting the pushback that he was in 2016 of, oh, you're just doing this because you're a racist, or you're just doing this because you're new Hitler, or anything like that. Now he's got the people behind him to say, like, okay, it's not Hitlerian to say we don't need 100 million illegals in America. There's nothing racist or xenophobic about it. It's being pro-America, right? We want those jobs available for our own kids. Like it's not right that five Mexicans are working at a place making 50 grand a year each while our kids are working at McDonald's, making $15 an hour. Like this isn't okay. So I think that Trump's going to be able to start a lot of stuff, but I don't think he's in power long enough to see it through. So I think 2028 is going to be a big deal. I think that it's going to decide whether we continue down this path or we make a shift either to far more ethno-driven policies or back to the left, which would be the ultimate disaster.
Yeah, I always think, especially with Trump kind of doing these long-term move, I always think like, I get worried, and then I'm like, of course they thought, but yeah, it's not going to be done in 4 years. But it's
Hmm.
also, you know, it won't work if, let's say Vance doesn't get it in 2028. But at the same time, you do have to start it. Well, on the off chance
Hmm.
it does work, you got to you got to
Exactly.
you got to try. If Vance does get it in 2028, they're gonna be like, hey, thank God we started this thing 4 years ago, right? It's
The only problem with Vance is that he may support Trump on policy, right? But Vance is a young guy who's reinvented himself about a dozen times, and he's still impressionable to the idea that he needs to impress people, right? He's a young guy. That's just the way that it is. And so he's going to be much more susceptible to doing things because he thinks he gains support from it, as opposed to doing things because it's the right thing to do. Trump's in his 80s. Trump doesn't need to impress anyone anymore. He's a results guy, right? Like he's not changing his opinion on things. And the fact that people seem to think that he does, like they'll say, "Oh, Trump just is doing this for popularity, or he's just doing this because he's being a jerk." Like, no, Trump's an older guy. He doesn't need your approval anymore,
yeah,
right? He's fulfilled every facet of life that like one could ever dream of. He's a billionaire. He owns, buildings all over the world. The guy's popular. He's married to a supermodel. Like he's been president. He's like,
yeah, he literally
you
lives
can't
in
embody the
a
American dream better than Trump,
I think Tim
you
Dillon said
know?
that. He was like, there's no one more American than a wrestling heel who lives in a gold penthouse in Manhattan and eats McDonald's on Air Force One. Like, he's like, you don't have to like Trump. He is who we are. Like,
Yep.
it really is. Yeah. And I didn't even mean that as like a rah rah Vance, just placeholder, like what, success
Right.
or whatever. Um, yeah, it might have been Luongo who said it a couple years ago on my show, but he was like, I think Trump's ego is actually gonna play play into the best for it, and that, right? Yeah, like billionaire, 80s, second term, they try to kill him. A lot. What's the only thing, right? You want money. After money, I think you want power, and after power, you probably want legacy. I think that story is
You know
go.
who I have to give credit for this one, and
Yeah.
I hate it because he's such a scumbag, is Kanye West was asked if he thinks Trump really likes black people, right? And Kanye West said it doesn't matter whether Trump likes black people. Trump likes to be loved. He wants people to love him,
Oh.
and he'll do what's necessary for every community that they'll see that he did good for them, and they'll love him for it.
Oh.
And it was kind of like a real eye opener. Like, what is it? What do you care what Trump's personal opinion is of black people? If he's going to do good things for black people because he thinks that it's good for the country and good for him and his legacy if he helps the black community, right? What do you care if he doesn't like them? If he's doing the right thing by them, you know? And it was a real, as I said, I'm not a big fan of Kanye West, but when he said that, it was such an eye opener for me. I was like, wow, that's so true.
I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure under Obama, they made it so that, the remains of servicemen and women come through Dover Air Force Base. And up until, I could be wrong on this, up until Obama, the parents had to pay for their own flight out there. And under Obama, they
Yeah.
did something where the government picked up the tab for the flight, the
Hmm.
hotel, and the flight back, and, time off work. People hate Obama with everything in their heart. And I'm like, but you have to look at that and say, hey,
Hmm.
hey, it's good. What hill are you dying on
Yeah.
here? And I think under Trump, he made it a felony in all 50 states for animal abuse.
Hmm.
It, what do you care? What do you care where it came from? And I think that plays into that. What does it matter? He wants to be loved.
Hmm.
That's a fair
So it's
point.
it's the it's the difference between the Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats think if they give you free shit, that you're going to love them regardless. Right now, they have had some decent policies over the years, and to say they don't is being disingenuous.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody has certain things you're going to agree with, but just shoveling free shit, is to people is not helping them. It's making them dependent. And Trump does the opposite. He doesn't just shovel them free shit. He says, I'm not here to take away the free shit the government's already given you, but I'm here to give you a pathway out, right? Where you can start actually doing for yourself. And anyone who's worked from home, and now after COVID, that's quite a few people, right? There are portions of time where you say to yourself, like, I spend a lot of time by myself. I don't interact with people. I don't have much going on in terms of like, social engagements because I don't make a lot of new friends. I'm the same way, so don't
The-
worry about it. But I think that a lot of people that have been on the government dole for a long time are seeing that kind of isolation to where they have no upward mobility, right? And they don't want to be on welfare forever. And Trump's not saying to them, life is going to be perfect if we stop giving you free stuff. He's saying, I'm giving you a pathway to get off if you want. And a lot of people are taking that pathway, and the Democrats don't know what to do about it, right? That's why they keep just railing about like, oh, Trump's going to starve people with taking away SNAP benefits, or he's going to kill people because of this, or he's going to. No, he's not. Okay, because he hasn't suggested taking away anything really. Like making work requirements for welfare of 20 hours a week, like that's more of a Democrat policy than anything. Okay? Because that's what Roosevelt did for the New Deal. He just told everybody, "Oh yeah, we'll take care of you. We'll give you a job. Here's a shovel. Go dig a ditch here."
yeah.
And then when they were done digging the ditch,
We'll
he said,
fill it
"Okay,
in.
take that shovel and fill it back in." It was useless work, but it was work nonetheless. He didn't just give him a check. He gave him a job. And so when the job market exploded after World War II, all of them were ready to enter it, and they did. And that's where you got, the silent generation, the boomers who accumulated more wealth than you can ever imagine. Now, one can argue that might not have been the best thing long term, but it at least gave them the dignity of being able to provide for their families as opposed to just taking a check from the government.
There's a massive there's a massive difference. And I lived at home. I lost my older graduated in college 2013, got into medical school, decided not to go. A couple months later, lost my older brother to suicide in 2014. Spiraled for about 2 years and then moved home with my parents. I was just fucking circling the drain. And I lived at home for 5 years, between the age of 26 and 26 and 31. I love my parents, but it's enough to make anybody go insane. And yeah, I had no friends, no nothing. I was living in Georgia. My parents lived in Maryland, so I wasn't even around people. I was very isolated. Now on paper, I had several jobs and then I would lose them because I was just a mess. But I didn't have to pay rent. I didn't have to pay for food. My bed was made. My laundry was done. My gym pass was paid for. My doctor was paid for. My medication was paid. I had nothing worried about. On paper, that sounds great. Now, aside from the fact that I didn't have friends and I felt like a loser, it's awful. What feels great was when I first moved out because the podcast just started making enough money to pay for an apartment, a shitty little apartment off like the side of a highway next to a Walmart. It
To
felt amazing because my work brought me there. I felt
hmm
you don't feel helpless. You don't feel like you're in the middle of a lake without a paddle. You feel
hmm
like you have something. And I'm not saying that's for everyone. There are some people that are just content being lazy. I think most humans are like that. And whether you realize it or not, the idea of your actions having effects and those effects benefiting you,
hmm
I mean, that's about as good as it gets in like this
Sure.
human existence. And I think that's something. Now, it's like you said, this is a long-term process, so you have to bring it back in a way. It's the long-term goal is right to get a bunch of factories where you don't need to go have 9 graduate degrees to get a job. You can work at the Ford plant and it's dignified work. Like, and I think that's the holy grail is right to just bring dignified work back for the average person.
It's also letting people know that there's dignified work out there, right? As we were talking about yesterday, plumbers can make as much as doctors. Construction workers make a fortune. Truckers make a fortune, right? Like these are good jobs, and they're not kill yourself jobs where at the end of the day, you're being put in the hospital because you're screwed. No one's even being told these things are an option. And this is a real problem because there are people that are not destined for college, right? They're not going to succeed in college. They're not going to find happiness in college. They're not going to be able to benefit from the debt they're going to accumulate in college. And to show them another way out, like you said, at working at a factory or working in any of the trades or anything like that is to show them that you don't have to be a computer scientist in order to make it in America, to be happy in America. Like you said, when I was a kid, we couldn't wait till we were 18 years old so we could move out. We all moved, and everyone I know moved in with like 5 or 6 roommates. They rented like half a house. So, and some people double bunked in the rooms just to be able to say like, okay, we're not with our parents anymore. Because what girl wanted to date you if you were living at your parents,
Yeah.
right? Like it was liberating, even if it was a struggle. And there was no like complaining about my job sucks because you worked your job because if your bills didn't get paid, you were moving back in with your parents. And there's nothing worse than leaving and then coming back,
Oh,
right? It's so demoralizing when you leave the house, you're making it, and then something happens and you're back in your old bedroom, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah. I went
So,
to college at 19 and moved back at 26. It's a different kind of pain.
yep. You see, I was a little luckier. I went to college when I was 15.
Oh,
So I graduated early. So I went to college at 15. So I was this young kid who was finally in a place where girls thought it was hot if you were smart. You know what I'm saying? So like I was literally running around like a kid in a candy store for
that's
years.
that's
You
amazing.
know?
That's
hmm
amazing. Um, One thing I kind of look at is to veer in a completely different direction is it seems like be it okay, wrapping up the Middle East and then Ukraine pops off, and it's a proxy war, right? It's the
Sure.
United States with a hand on, no different than we did, with the Mujahideen in Afghanistan with the Soviets, and then I would imagine the Soviets to a degree probably did it in GWAD and Vietnam, and it's all proxy wars. It's just you're giving them the
Sure.
weapons, but okay. Um, and then Israel, Gaza, and then the boot everyone's waiting for to drop, Taiwan. It kind of seemed like all of those were almost like ink blots merging together. It seemed like that
hmm
was either going to best case result in Cold War II, worst case escalate to World War III. And it could be my own naivety or ignorance. There's a fucking fly flying around.
I
does it
hate
seem
that.
it's and I
It's like
say
the
it's
worst thing ever,
well, it's
you know?
November and November in Maine. There's normally a frost in October and they all die. So I don't even know what the shit is.
Mhm.
But does it feel like we're kind of walking back from that? And it's I don't I voted for Trump. I'm happy he won. I always have to be aware, like, am I glossing over things now because my guy's in? Like, does it seem like we're kind of stepping back from that inevitable slide towards just global chaos?
So I think with Trump being in power, I don't think it's that he's solving problems per se. He is, but it's not so much that's not what's so great
I,
about what he's
sorry,
doing.
I wouldn't even necessarily say this is Trump's doing. Just as
Right.
like a meta system, does it seem like we're walking back? But sorry, keep going.
The issue is, and I'll die on these hills. We're not going to war for Taiwan. We never were. Okay? China is not invading Taiwan. That was never going to happen. It's bluster, and it's always been bluster. Number one, China would be sending their troops into a meat grinder if they walked them into Taiwan. And they would have to destroy the things they actually want in Taiwan to reunify it, which is the chip manufacturing.
TSMC, yeah.
And if not, if Taiwan saw they were losing, they would just blow it up themselves. They're not going to just go quietly into that good night. Secondly, Taiwan is Chinese, right? The only thing China wants from them is the ability to buy supercomputer chips that America says no, you're not selling to China. Sooner or later, China is just going to put some money into Taiwan and elect a pro-Chinese leader who's going to give them what they want anyway, which is why we're building chip factories here, by the way, because we realize that sooner or later it's going to happen. America is the weirdest ally to have since World War II. We will do anything for you up until it comes to joining a war, right? Then all of a sudden we're nowhere to be found. And that's fine. That's good for America. It's good for everything. But we are all talk a lot of times. Yeah, we'll sell you any weapon you want. You know what I'm saying? You want to go get into a war, that's fine by you, but don't expect American boots on the ground. We're just not doing that. Right? We were even like that in World War II. That's why it took us so long to
Yeah,
join.
Lend-Lease. Yeah.
Hmm. So the people that love to drum up this whole like, oh, soon we're going to be at war in Taiwan because Xi Jinping is getting the same signals that Putin got, that if he walks into Taiwan, no one will stop him, just like we're not stopping him from walking. It's all bullshit, right? And Trump's exposing that bullshit because when Biden rolled out the red carpet for Zelensky and basically was like, stores open, whatever you need, we're here. And, everyone went from like COVID vaccines are the greatest thing on earth to all of a sudden it was Ukraine is the greatest thing
Slava
on earth. And they couldn't
Ukraini.
even find it on a map.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's fine. Do whatever you want. Ukraine is not winning this war. Okay. I don't care what happens. What's going to happen, everyone knows what a peace deal is going to look like. The areas that Russia already took, they're going to keep. Ukraine is not going to join NATO, and they're not even going to want to by the time all of this is said and done. Zelensky will probably just go off into that good night and move to Panama or wherever he siphoned off his billions of dollars from all this aid. And Russia will go back to being a world power in terms of commodities, which is what they do. They sell nickel, they sell food, they sell oil. That's all they kind of want is the ability to keep doing that. They don't have a world-class military that can project power all over the world. They have a ton of nuclear bombs, but nobody's getting into a nuclear war anytime soon, right? What Russia wants is Europe to stop acting like Russia is the boogeyman. And immediately, whenever Russia does something, Europe has a little hissy fit and calls their big brother across the ocean to come over and make things bad for the Russians, right? Trump is exposing that he doesn't care about Russia or Ukraine, and neither should the average American. The average American should not be concerned with what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. Russia is not invading Europe, and Ukraine is not going to win this war and beat back Putin into Moscow. Right? This is a regional skirmish that's about borders. The border will change, and the bigger power will get what they want, which is what they always have throughout history. And at the end of the day, no one will care. Because remember, everyone cared for like 5 minutes about Ukraine. The only reason anyone still cares about what's going on with Israel and Gaza is just because the press can't get enough of it. And even that, it's going away. People have had enough, right? Which is for me, I'm pro-Israel guy. That to me is music to my ears. I just want them to stop sensationalizing all of this and let them move on. Like let them figure out what the solutions are going to be for both peoples by both peoples. Like enough of this idea that outside influence can push people into directions that are going to be good for everybody that seem to be good for no one. That just perpetuates forever war, right? Forever war it should be the enemy of all good people throughout the world. It should be that whatever the solution is going to be, let's just do it. Okay? Even if it makes everybody unhappy, let's do it. Because this idea that we can just keep troops everywhere and that they can just get into shooting matches with our supposed enemies at any given time, it's not helping anybody. And that's what kills military recruitment.
Hmm.
And far be it from anybody to suggest this, but it's true. Every major invention that we've come up with has come out of the military. Okay, there's a reason why America spends so much on its military. It's the reason why people like Elon so much, is because he's taking the government money and he's making things for the military that are enabling us to get to Mars. That are enabling us to not need cell towers everywhere. Like these are military inventions, right?
1,000%.
Because so when we talk about the money we spend on the military, I know people like to think it's for keeping endless peacekeeping missions in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's not. It's going into developing really new, really cool shit that's going to change the world. Like, I don't know, the internet
Yeah,
and
DARPA.
GPS
Yeah.
and those things,
Satellites, GPS
Yep.
was for the Polaris submarine missiles, right? I mean, I haven't read it. There's a book I want to read. I think it's called Inventing Accuracy, and it's about
Yep.
and it's and people say, well, well, isn't that sad that we have to spend money on the? Hey, man, that's the human condition, and you're free to dislike it. Hey, it's not great. I wish we all had unlimited food, water, and energy, and sang kumbaya. Of course,
Hmm.
there's also a reality. And if you don't spend it, someone else will, and they might not have the best intention. It's just what it is. Move on. Doesn't mean you can't try to make the
Hmm.
world better in your little section of the universe, hold the door for somebody. It's just what it is. I've thought a lot about like if I were Trump, that's kind of how I'd go about it. And I know I'm making very broad strokes here.
Hmm.
JFK went in like Leroy Jenkins. It's like we're gonna rip apart the CIA, we're gonna stop all this stuff, and they're like absolutely not, and blew his brains out. All right, so don't go up against the military-industrial complex. Eisenhower talks about it from the Oval Office. Smedley Butler said it 30 years prior to that. Woodrow Wilson said it 14 years prior to Smedley Butler about an interlocked, interwoven series of power that the most wealthy men in the world dare not whisper about. That was in 1919. Okay, but I also don't think it means give up. I've often thought, like, what's the realistic, pragmatic middle ground to go about this? You'd keep the dogs of the military industrial complex happy. It just give them a new goal that maybe isn't the outright slaughter of innocent people. And I've always thought that the space race would be a way to do it. And I know that sounds defeatist, but I'm just being realistic. Okay, well, it seems like they kill the presidents that push back on it. So what's the best way to go about it? Okay, keep the $1 trillion budget. We do get good things from it. You do need defense, but then just like, make something as like sexy. And I know the B-21 Raider just replaced the B-2, but make something as like SpaceX. Make the space race. You can get all the same.
Hmm.
What you were saying earlier. What does it matter if he likes black people? He wants to be loved. Hey, Raytheon, what do you care if it's for Hellfire missiles or for some, you know, fusion powered rocket to go to Pluto and then decelerate and take a mining sample? Like what do you care? And that's
Exactly.
I kind of hope that's where it's going. Well, we shouldn't spend any money again. Yeah, and it would be great if we all had unlimited food, water, and peace. I get it, but because there's this behemoth that also has a lot of benefits, the technology, just kind of, hey, we're not going to blow up weddings in Afghanistan. We're going to go. I want helium-3 mining on the far side of the moon. I
Hmm.
hope that's the case. I don't know where I was going with that, but I hope that's the case.
So So when I was in college, I did a couple internships down in DC, right? In my illustrious college career. And I got involved, I was working for a senator, and I got involved with the NIH, the National Science Foundation, the Department of Defense in terms of seeing their funding mechanisms for private companies. Right. And now I did some consulting work after that for years, where I just helped companies go after these huge government contracts and these government grants to explore. Right. And now every year Rand Paul does this thing where he lists he does it around Christmas. It's like the most ridiculous things that the government funded throughout the year. And it's so naive to use populist techniques like that. Like he'll say, "Oh, they spent $2 million researching how STDs are transmitted around among tsetse flies in Bolivia." But if you actually read into
You go
it,
into the
right?
context of what was it for. Yeah.
Right. And you read into it and you find out that there's a significant amount of the population that are prostitutes in Bolivia. They get these sexually transmitted diseases that are transmitted through flies, and they give them to heterosexual populations that are the Johns. And now you have an explosion of STDs that are incurable in there, and this is how you find the cure, right? Like these and these guys, they're not able to come out and counter Rand Paul. They don't have the PR mechanisms to come out and say, yes, this was a very important grant, and you should stop being a complete retard about this.
Yeah.
Like when people started researching what the electron was, right? They had no idea where it was going to turn out. They just started looking into it. Now we have an entire world that runs on electronics.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's a reason why scientific discovery exists, and the government and the people benefit by being at the forefront of it, even if it seems completely ridiculous at the time. Like, could you imagine telling people in the 1800s that there would be a day where everyone would have a box in their house where they can watch people, make movies, and they wouldn't even be able to wrap their head around the concept of what's a movie? Like, what do you mean that there's going to be able to project movies into your like they would look at you like you were either a witch or completely retarded and just wanted to waste money. But now getting a 55, I was just telling my father because he has a father's a lot older. He still thinks that when he's on the internet and he bookmarks a site that it saves inside of his hard drive. He doesn't realize that it's still on the web. But so he has like this big 55-inch monitor. It's like a TV that he uses for his computer because it's easier for him because everything can fit on this giant screen. I was just telling him I saw at ShopRite, which is a supermarket. I saw a 55-inch Sony Vizio TV for 170 bucks. Could you imagine telling someone from the 1800s that this would exist in our time, where a flat screen monitor that weighs something like 6 pounds would be available at a supermarket for 179 bucks? They would look at you like you were insane. And if you tried to get funding for it back then, they would say, "Oh, ha ha ha! They're gonna spend $1 billion trying to figure out how to make a box that projects movies and books onto the screens. How silly are these people?" Right? This is how discovery happens. That's why Elon's such a gazillionaire, is because he keeps getting told no, and he's just like, "Oh no, I can do that. If I have the right amount of money, I can do that."
And it's also being laughable, and not just Elon, but in Discovery is also about being laughably wrong. I mean, at the
Hmm.
same time, we were enriching uranium for the Manhattan Project. We were developing a program where we tied these little tiny plastic sacks like that big to bats full of nitroglycerin, and we were going to drop them out of a plane. That they were going to go all perch under the wooden structures of Tokyo, and a timer would detonate them all at midnight. Some fucking Home
Hmm.
Alone shit. While we were doing that, they tested it. They had like a mock-up town in Nevada. All the bats left the Air Force hangar, didn't go to the town, came back to the hangar, burned it down, destroyed a bunch of jets, and they're like, hey, and not only that, it was like I think like 2 days later, it was July 16th when we detonated in Alamogordo. I think they're all just like, all right, so that one was kind of retarded, but hey, the nuke worked. All right, But
Right.
what if the nuke didn't work? Well, then you might
Hmm.
have to do that one, right? And it's at the turn of the century. There's a great book called Empires of the Sky, I think. It's about the rise of Zeppelins, and in Germany and in the U.S. Dude, that was like a defense hot. Like, you got to be able to float around, and these things can carry bombs. They can do photography. They don't even worry about borders. They just fly right on over. Yeah, man, that was hot button shit. And then the Wright brothers did their thing, and if we were like, yeah, all right, that's the new one. But
And for all the people that thought it was a dumb idea, do we all remember the Chinese spy balloon that it
yeah,
took an F-22 to shoot down?
yeah.
Like, I mean,
But
there was some validity to what they said.
well,
Like,
also it was just like, think about how silly heavier than air flight sounded. Like, there was a reason they were like, hey, this big balloon thing kind of seems to be what's working. Why wouldn't you
yep,
pursue that? And now we look back, we go, like, fucking blimp. But
yeah.
none of that was rational. None of it made sense. So I think there is a huge part of that. And I guess, you know, I hope we can just move it towards something that is like there will always be grift. There will always, I get it, pork, but there's, of course, stop it where you
Mhm.
can if it's particularly egregious. Sure. I just, I hope we could, like, I really do. And I think I said this in like middle of 2020 when it was just chaotic. I was like, man, we really need a space race. I
Mhm.
think we really do. It's a laser pointer to get the cats from stop trying to kill each other. It's just something. I think it would
Yep.
help. I really do. I think it would. Yeah, we're gonna dump money. Yeah, Raytheon execs are gonna get yachts. I get it, but I feel like it's the least worst case.
The Raytheon execs are going to get yachts one way or the other.
Yeah,
Whether they're
exactly.
producing old missiles or new missiles, they're still going to produce
Exactly.
missiles, and someone's going to buy them.
Yeah.
So this idea that we're going to stop them from getting yachts by choking off their funding, no, we're just going to encourage them to just never move forward
Yeah.
and just keep selling the old stuff. And then eventually, sooner or later, someone's going to create something better. And then again, we're going to have a space race, and their yachts are going to be even bigger.
Yeah. And if you
And you know
say,
what? We're going to swallow it because
yeah,
we need those new missiles, or we need that new plane, or we need new this, new that. Trump's really into that kind of stuff.
yeah,
You know, like where he's like, "Oh, we're creating this new plane, the X-35 or whatever it is, and it's going to do X and Y and Z, and it's going to be available in 5 years." Like, is he right? Who knows, right? But it's still pretty cool. I remember everyone was sharing it around on social media, like this new
the
plane
F,
is going to be
yeah,
awesome.
the F-47, yeah, the successor of the
Yeah.
F-20. It's wild.
Hmm.
It's also like, all right, okay, we're gonna cut off funding. You're not allowed to make new missiles unless we need them. We only have a stockpile of old missiles. Well,
Right.
if I'm them, what I would do is I'd be like, let's go foment something in Ukraine. Yeah, we just sold all the
Hmm.
old missiles. Now we got to make them
Yeah.
again. They're not new ones. We just got to. It's a bad thing, but it's the human condition. It's the path of least resistance. So my point is like, fire it at Mars. Like, let's do
Yep.
something at that. At the very least, doesn't kill everyone else. And at best case, we get something out of it. And I think that's the most realistic way to go about it. You can't sing Imagine by John Lennon. That doesn't work. I think
No.
what you got
It's
to
just, and it
do,
makes everybody miserable.
and he was miserable too. He
Okay.
didn't even believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. It just makes everybody miserable.
I think you got to keep pumping AI. I think you got to keep pumping fusion reactors, and I think you got to pump, multiplanetary civilization. Like
Sure.
the money's got to go somewhere. We got to have some. We all got to be after something. It's just what it is, and I think that's what we need to do, man. So, um,
Well, remember, I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but before the internet was really a thing, you had to buy a book of maps in order to figure out where the hell
yeah,
you were going.
I had to print out
Then it was
MapQuest in
like,
high school. Yeah,
right, and then MapQuest came out, and it was like, holy shit, I can just print out a map of anywhere I need to go and just drive
I
around and
am
find it.
Magellan. Yeah,
Right. Now I can just go on my phone and literally GPS anything and just find it. It's a
yeah,
free app.
yeah,
Like this is how things work. It was developed, like you said, for Polaris submarines. And now we are so into it that it's considered a novelty. It's like, it's almost a joke when you say, "Oh, GPS steered me the wrong way," and then you realize you put the wrong setting in it, and it was like, avoid tolls or something, and wound up taking you 3 hours out of the way. Like I remember we took a road trip to Canada when I was in college, and me and my friends we printed out on MapQuest, and we had the wrong setting on it, and it wound up taking us like 16 hours to get to Toronto from New York,
good
and it
lord.
was like, yeah, and we laughed about it the whole time, but I'll tell you that road trip was the best time I think I ever had. Like we stopped off in states we never planned on visiting. We were driving through Canada. We found a casino that we had some fun at. Like we had a blast. And now the idea that like I would even make a wrong turn is like odd. Like I don't even I always say that's the one negative of all this technology is we never slow down. Right? It used to be that if you wrote a report for work and you sent it over to someone, you had to wait for it to get there, they had to read it. They had to call you up and tell you what they thought of it, and then you always had time to sit down and think. Now, when you finish something at a deadline, you email it over, the person's waiting for it, they open it up and review it with you on the phone, and you never get a minute to think about what you actually just did or what you should change. And it takes away that kind of innovative spark, right? But at the same time, now with AI, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of it right now because it's just kind of silly. Like all it does is like, make ugly women better looking so that their profile pictures are something you want to talk to. Like that
Yeah.
seems and that and spouts off facts from Reddit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, but other than that, like in the future, it will make life easier, and it'll define probably the next generation. When factories don't need people anymore, but the people are needed to maintain the factory, not build the cars, right? Like, how is that going to change us? How are people going to get into this? And it's when you don't need to code the programs anymore because AI will do that, but you need to test them and make them better, and you need to come up with the new ideas that are going to go for the next generation. These are the things that we're missing right now because we're in the transition, right? Just like we were when the internet first started. Like when the internet first started, everyone was trying to find a picture of a naked girl they could look at online that took 4 minutes to download a picture. Remember floppy disks,
Yeah.
1.88 megabytes?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I have a
Yeah.
keychain that's got a 2 terabyte drive on it. You
Yeah.
know what I'm
I've got one
saying?
like the size of my pink. That's 5 years old. Like it's
Yeah,
yeah, and I think we'll get through it. I mean, it's scary, but the
sure.
reality is every new threshold is always scary. And you can look all throughout history, and at every threshold, they go, listen, there was a lot of scary thresholds over the last millennia, but this one's different. And then that one ends up not
Hmm.
being different with the plane, with the rocket, with the nuke, with the H bomb, with it doesn't mean it's not scary. It doesn't mean you don't gotta, walk, tread carefully. And what it does mean is you do need a lot of defense funding into it because you gotta master it. I think we'll get through it. It's gonna be
Yep.
weird. Right now, we're approaching that Wild West. We're approaching that like 2002 internet stage. It's gonna get a little hairy. It's gonna be really funny. And the reality is in 20 years, we're kind of nostalgically look back at this the same way we look at like
So I'm old enough.
E-bombs world.
I'm dating myself. I'm dating myself a bit. But when I was a kid, Time magazine had on their front cover a thing about the internet. And the concern was the internet was literally going to destroy the world. That it was going to like go Skynet, that people were going to be like locked in as zombies, like all of this stuff. And I remember reading it. And at the time I was a kid, so I didn't know what the internet was. And I asked my
Fuck.
parents, and they're like, well, it's this thing. It's like you're going to be able to do all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but isn't it going to turn into like a killer robot that's going to wind up killing us all? And they were like, yeah, but you'll be able to play games of chess with people all over the world at the same time. I'm like, really?
All right.
Whoa.
All right.
But there was a concern that the internet was going to like literally destroy the world. And then immediately after, like AOL and Compaq and all of them, they created these programs that united people, you know? And it was awesome. And listen, the internet has had its problems, obviously. And I'm pretty sure that when they close the book on this chapter of humanity, that at some point someone's going to come out and go, well, they almost destroyed themselves, and this was the problem. They're going to hold up a cell phone or a smartphone. They're going to be like, people stopped talking to each other and stopped interacting with each other, and but I think that humanity has adapted to we adapted to nuclear power, we adapted to the internet, we adapted to GPS, we adapted to cell phones, we adapted to disease. Like we're very adaptable. And this idea that we've kind of hit a wall and just need to stop and go back to like feudalism is a very serious, ridiculous thing that I think that people who are not succeeding right now are promoting as if it's a real thing, and it needs to stop. Like it really needs to stop.
In the middle or at the beginning and middle of like fast food, yeah, you could look at it and go, this is really fucking everyone. Everyone's getting fat as shit. You can just drive right up
Yep.
to a thing. But fast food was never banned. But a lot of people over the decades have gone, maybe that should be a treat. No one made us do that.
Hmm.
Nobody gun to your head. I'm an adult. I've been sober almost 2 years. I could right now order a Big Mac and I'm in Maine. They do deliver alcohol. They'll bring it right to my apartment, scan my ID. I could within 20
Hmm.
minutes of this be shit faced breaking my diet. I
Hmm.
don't because I've done it before, and although fun, I probably should. And I feel better when I do.
Right.
I think that's
And our
what
parents, our parents' generation, they were like, they would put a comedian had said this at one point. He said they would put a 500-pound TV on a TV tray, right? And if you went over and tried turning the channels and they'd be like, wait a minute, and one of the parents would go, yeah, let him pull it on his head. He'll figure out not to do it again.
Yeah.
Like letting people fail is actually a good thing. Like that's how you learn.
Yeah.
You know, how many times have you touched the stove and went, ow, and got a burn? You put some cream on it, it hurt for a couple days, and you realize
You don't
probably shouldn't touch
fucking
the stove.
don't fucking do that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I think that's what we will look back on. We'll probably look at a point where we're like, yeah, we're probably at like the fast food or we're probably at like the super size me stage of like cell phones where we're gonna
Hmm.
look back and go, yeah, that was a lot of screen time. It's not gonna be a decree, it's not gonna be a law, it's just gonna be like most people go, I probably shouldn't have McDonald's on a Tuesday. I think that's what
Hmm.
it'll be. So we'll look back and go, yeah, we kind of went a little crazy. And but I think we'll get through it. But for right now, Halsey, let's wrap this up.
No problem.
It's good to actually talk to you after on our third show. For everybody listening, go in the description, find all of his links and all that good stuff. I will text this to you when it is up, and appreciate your time, man.
Anytime.
All right,
We're
dude.
really looking forward to doing some more of these. They're a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you so
Talk
much,
soon.
guys. Yes, sir. Guys, please go in the description. Please go follow us, Twitter, all that good shit. Till next time.